Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, well, first of all, everyone should recognize our guest. Rose Black is on the podcast again from Australia, where, we were just talking about, how they're still in lockdown there. But, that's a whole different topic for a whole different podcast. But she's on here to give us an update on really what she's been up to. And, it's so great to have you on again, Rose.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's great to be here. It's really nice to talk to you and love coming on.
Absolutely. Well, I always ask you this question every single time I'm going to ask it. And what's the weather like today in Australia?
It's actually so beautiful, really sunny, big blue sky, beautiful day.
All right. Well, it is nighttime here, right here where I am. But it was a nice, 70-degree day. So it hasn't been too badly affected by that. But we touched on it before we talked, before we started this recording. But you've been in lockdown. So what has your fitness journey been like being in lockdown and going through all this since we last talked basically a little over a year ago?
Yeah. So up until around about 7 weeks ago, I was still accessing the gym. I was really lucky. I'm not in Melbourne, Australia, so that for me, we had a lockdown right at the beginning of the pandemic, and then we pretty much had freedom because I'm quite rural. I'm rural New South Wales, so we had a lot of freedom. We could go to the gym and do whatever we wanted, sort of thing. And then about 6 weeks ago, I think it is now, yeah, we got locked down again. And since then, I've had to train at home. So it's been a bit hard. It's a bit hard to train back properly because I like my machines for back. I like my seated row machine. I like my lat pull down.
Hey, you got the door back there to use as a pull-up thing, whatever, if you really get really
Yeah,
desperate.
I do that. But unfortunately, just before I went on, we went into lockdown, I was actually getting prepared for a powerlifting show because I'm a pro, and we're not allowed to travel outside of Australia at the moment. I'm not able to do any shows for the pro league. And the local pro shows, it's been cancelled, obviously, the last 2 years in a row, for much the same reason that we can't get the athletes over here to Australia to compete. So um, I've lost my train of thought.
Hey,
So
she's got lockdown fever, everyone. Okay, I would be just like that too if I was locked down. Still to this day, it's ridiculous.
brain fog. What was I saying?
Keeping
Oh
up with your
gosh,
at-home workouts and doing all that stuff.
yeah. So uh, basically, yeah, I was training up until that time, till 6 weeks ago, for a powerlifting competition because I couldn't do my other competitions, and I was really getting up to my heaviest ever deadlift, one of my heaviest squats. So I was really training so well, and I was so happy. And I was aiming at getting a record in my age group and my weight division, and I was just so looking forward to that. And then, yeah, got canned, of course, because of the lockdown. But just before that, I also injured my rear delt. So the last session I did, actually, before we got locked down, I was going for a personal best in training. It was my heaviest week. Before then, we would back down for the show, and I was a little bit out of position, and yeah, just pulled a deadlift, and it was really heavy, 165 kilos, which is heavy for me. And I just kind of tweaked my rear delt. So training back is even harder because normally I would do my pull ups and my things like that, but I haven't really been able to do that. So I've just been using bands, and just trying to get some blood in there and just trying to rehab that. So it's kind of a good time, but a bad time to be injured.
Is there any sign at all of when things are gonna let up and you can actually go back to your gym and everything?
Not really at this stage. They're talking about when we're at 70 and 80% vaccination rates. So I'm not sure though what the rules will be around that. So I'm not sure if gyms will open at that point or whether they'll wait till longer. There's really not a lot of information coming out.
How have you been dealing with this all mentally? I mean, like you were talking about before about how you don't go out that much and you're just indoors. Like, how do you keep yourself entertained, especially since you are a little bit injured too, so you can't really just go, balls to the wall on training?
I've been doing a lot of walking, a lot more cardio. So, and that's been okay. Just getting my cardio fitness back up. I've really enjoyed that, and it's been nice to do a different style of training and just trying to keep my weight down because as you know, when you're at home all the time, the fridge is right there. I work at home. I'm at home all day, so I really had to kind of get out of that habit of just going to the fridge every 5 minutes. But now that it's a little bit more difficult to go to the shops, you've got a QR code in for everything, and then you run the risk of getting pinged and then having to test and isolate anyway. So I do try to just keep it to one day a week where I go and do my shopping, or I order it online. But even that's been difficult because online there's so many outages. You can't get everything you need, so you still have to kind of go to the shop. So mentally, it's been a little bit like I'm fatigued. I think everyone's COVID fatigued, and we want it to be over. We want to go back to normal life.
Well, I will mention this to get her spirits up because I purposely didn't mention this when we were talking before recording. But last time we had a podcast, she sent me some Tim Tams and some Vegemite.
Yes.
Those Tim Tams lasted about 2 days, and then they were completely gone. The Vegemite, I'm not gonna lie, I hated it at first, but then after, and I learned to spread it more generously than I was before. I spread it kind of like a PB&J thing because I was like, if I'm gonna just do it, I'm just gonna try it really hard. And then I was like, oh, I almost threw up. And then I spread it a little bit gentlier, and that's gone as well. That only lasted about a month, and then. But I thank her very much for that. That was very, very great. Those I recommend if anyone can get a hold of Tim Tams or Vegemite and you haven't tried it yet, it is a must-have to. And I thank you again for sending me those because that was awesome.
Happy that you liked it. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, you can't go too thick with the Vegemite. It's got to be just a nice, lots of butter, just a little bit of a spread.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way, everyone. So take it from me and take it from my experience. But yeah,
And
and
if anyone ever asks you to take a spoonful of it, you just say no,
I'll
no,
just say
no,
how much
no.
money. Yeah. But I
But
mean,
Tim's are the best. You
oh,
need to I'll have to send you another packet because what you've got to do is bite the ends off either, you've got it they're like a little rectangle, bite the end off one side, bite the end off the other, and then you put it into a hot cup of coffee or a tea and you suck it and it will just all melt into your mouth. It's so yummy.
well, speaking of COVID, I was just at a state fair 2 days ago where literally there was like 100,000 people or so. But I got a deep fried Twinkie that was covered in caramel that was then covered in chocolate.
Wow. That is
I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering to this day from that, by the way. I mean, it's still slowly going through. And then they have like the foot long corn dogs and stuff, and oh, it was just a delight. So we're just yeah, I'm just absolutely loving that. But nutrition wise, I mean, especially since now you're only going out like once a week, have you had to change things up? Because obviously, I would guess that you can't really be on your normal bodybuilding diet right now.
No, it has been really hard. Still eating all my veggies and things like that. The vegetables are still coming through, and we're getting them in the shops and stuff. But um, because I'm shopping once a week, I kind of run out of things a bit quicker, and so I've just kind of got to then. I've been eating a lot of tuna and things like that. So instead of like cooking as much chicken and all that sort of stuff, I just kind of changed to cheaper options of protein. And then sometimes I just have shakes because I can't get to the shop or I can't, and I'm probably eating a lot more carbs than I normally would. But I mean, look, I haven't blown out in terms of size or weight. I'm still conscious of my calorie intake, and I probably the only thing is just because you're not feeling, I guess, as great emotionally. You do kind of get the comfort food a little bit more. Yeah,
Well,
like I'll
how do you do with the mentality like you were talking about? How about I mean, you're a pro, so I don't get first of all why Australia doesn't have any pro shows, but like you literally can't do anything. So how are you dealing with that aspect mentally too? Of being like, even if I was in tip top shape, getting ready for a show, and I had no injuries or anything at all, like I couldn't do anything.
it's very hard, and I feel like we're being forgotten. Does that make sense? Like, um, you know, it just seems like it's really hard to watch the shows going on overseas, and I'm happy for those girls. Like, I'm so happy that they get to compete, but I feel like, what about us? Like, no one cares about what's happening to the New Zealand athletes, what's happening to the Australian athletes. Like, we're still asked to pay for our registration fees. We don't have any option of competing. Like, and it's not cheap to pay for that every year, and I just feel a little bit left behind. No one speaks about us. Like, it's like we don't exist in the bodybuilding world anymore, because we literally don't. We literally don't exist, and that's been tough. Like, that's been really tough. Like, I feel so happy though that they get to compete still. Like, I'm so happy, and I still love watching it, so I don't want it to stop. Like, but I just kind of feel like, I wish that there was something more for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how I would deal with that personally. Like, I would probably just be like, "Give me some Papa Johns," and you'd find me about 10 months later, and I'd be about 50 pounds heavier, and then I'd just be like, "Hey, I tried," but that's why I'm not competing too, and that's a good thing for the general public, I'd say, in general. But I mean, with all this cardio that you're doing too, have you had to mix things up at all with the nutrition? Because I actually have been taking up a lot of walking as well, and I can now just like plow through anything that I want, really, basically, then, because I'm just doing
You
so much
look
cardio.
okay. You look very trim. Like, you look like you've trimmed down a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, well done. Look, as I said, I haven't noticed a big difference in my physique. Like, I'm softer, but then I would normally be softer, and I guess the extra cardio just allows me to have those um more carbohydrate, if that makes sense. So, and look, I probably could go back to a very strict bodybuilding diet if I wanted to, but you're right. It's the emotional part up here that just goes, why? Like, why? And I feel disappointed in myself some days that I think like that, but I think it's human to think like that. I mean, it's like, well, what am I, what am I pushing my body so hard for when I have nothing to do? Like, I literally can't get on a stage. I can't get ready for a show. um the powerlifting that I've been doing, I was so excited about that, but even that gets cancelled because of COVID. So it's like anything that you plan for in the back of your mind over the last 18 months, it's kind of taught us to not rely upon it, like, which is really sad. It's like, you just can't rely on it, and yeah, it does have a significant impact mentally and emotionally. I won't lie about that.
Do you have anything other than just the bands to use, or was that just the one thing that you were able to get really to have at home
Um,
workouts with?
Thank God I have a squat rack, so I can squat, but I don't have a lot of heavy weight. But I am gathering more as we go on.
You got your
I
significant other. I mean, that's just squat. That's a squat thing right there. I mean, that's a workout right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If all else fails, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Go and do that. Yeah, and I have a chin up bar, and I have some weights, so I can do some basic things, like I can do bent over rows, and I can do my shoulders fairly well at home. I can do all of the stuff for my core, and even I've got a little sissy squat machine as well, so that's really good. So I do have things that I can work around, and I have a bench, and I have a reasonably well set up gym, but it's just not the same as being in that environment, like being with my mates and lifting heavy weight, and I just
Do
miss
you do like a lot of phone calls and video calls with people to like keep up with your social life, or have you just been like, oh my god, I'm just not talking to anyone?
I feel like I'm a bit like the latter. Like, I haven't really talked to anyone. I think a lot of us are like that, to be honest. Like, I think we're all in our own little world of kind of coping, I guess. Yeah. So I mean, I do talk, like, with my family and all of that sort of stuff, but um and I have talked to some, like, there's one girl that I'm really close with in bodybuilding, and she's sort of has the same viewpoints as me. We're all a little bit over it. We're all a little bit like, when is this going to end? Like, it's 2 years of our career that it's gone already.
But is there a policy for, like, if you already have COVID, like, are you allowed to, like, do more stuff, or it's just like, no, you still have to be treated like everyone else?
They don't even consider that. You still got to be. Well, they're saying that once the 70 to 80% vaccination rate happens, then the vaccinated people can do more, but not the unvaccinated. So, I guess it depends on what camp you're in terms of what you will be able to do and what you won't.
So yeah, that is just, I mean, that was the most shocking thing for me when I first learned about what's going on in Australia, and I was like, wait, they still are concerned about coronavirus over there? Like, I thought that was like so 2020 basically, but like, no, that is, it is just, it really is shocking. But I mean, has there been anything that, like, you've picked up in this quarantine, like any hobbies or anything new that you've really been picking up with all this free time?
Actually, I've been writing more. So I love to write, and I've written a book. I've written about 8 chapters of a book, so I've been revisiting that and just tweaking it.
Without getting into it, what's the book about, or what genre would it be?
Um, so I guess paranormal. I
Ooh.
guess, yeah, that kind of fantasy. Yeah,
Well, when it gets published, let me know and I'll be the first person to buy it. But that's amazing. And what? So my little brother's
studying,
writing.
studying as well. I'm studying through Vast Nutrition Academy, and I'm studying, yeah, studying a diploma in nutrition.
Well, you're just like, my little brother's writing his own screenplay right now that he's been working on.
Oh,
So we'll see.
oh my
We'll see how
god.
that. Of course, no one's ever been able to read even one word of it, so we don't even know what it's about or anything. But he'll go outside. We have a shed out. Yeah, we have a shed outside, and he'll go out back there, and he'll just be there till like 2 a.m. some nights, just typing it up, and then he'll come back in. And so yeah, we'll see what that happens.
Yeah,
But that is
like
great.
that too. I'm very shy about my writing, but I wrote a lot of poetry when I was younger, and I actually won this poetry competition. It's called the Henry Lawson Festival. So I've won the big gong. It was like a big Henry Lawson statue. Like, Henry Lawson was a very well known Australian poet back in the 1800s kind of thing. Um, so I do love writing, but it's very rare that I would ever put it forward for anyone to read it.
I wish I had it next to me, but in fourth grade, I submitted a poem to like the U.S. Something Society of Poetry, and they published it in a book because I thought it was so good. It was about trees that I did. It was a poem about trees. So
That's so
I actually remember
awesome.
I used to have the book like right next to me that I could just like, it was like in a drawer somewhere, but I wish I had it so I could read it. But yeah, it was, yeah, poems, that's great. And so were you just all of a sudden thinking one day like, hey, I should write a book? Because that's really what started this podcast for me. It was like just sitting around one day and being like, hey, I should really just do this.
Yeah, I started doing it when I was going through university. I started writing back then. I used to write a lot. And then I guess once I finished university, I wasn't in front of the computer as much. I started working and just hadn't revisited it. And then when all of this lockdown stuff came, just to keep myself sane, I was like, I've got to do something because I've watched pretty much everything you can watch on Netflix. I'm like, seriously, I've become a TV nut. So I was like, I've really got to get away from screens and my phone. Like, I was on my phone so much as well. So, and I find that that's also makes you quite negative because you're just seeing, you're seeing a lot of stuff that that you might not agree with, or fitness stuff that was just driving me crazy because I'm like, that's not true. So yeah, I was just getting to a point where I was like, oh my god, this is just so frustrating. I need another hobby to get me off my screens.
Without getting too much into it, what were some fitness things that you were saying that weren't true? Because I've been seeing them as well, and like I wanted to almost personally get into it with some people as well. Be like, why are you spreading this?
Oh god, now you're putting me on the spot. Probably just people that come out with like blanket statements and they don't consider individual circumstances. Like, they're like, oh, there's this one guy, for example, I won't say his name, but he's very popular in America, and he does the most ridiculous, stupid exercises with, like, getting people to balance with one, like, one leg on a ball while they're
Oh, yep, yep, yep.
press, and I'm like, why would you do? And then he does these massive long statement like captions about why this is like neurolinguistically and blah blah blah, and it's doing the neuro repatterning, and it's just, it actually has no basis in reality. I'm like, you can paint that however you like, mate, but the basic mechanisms of biochemistry, or um the basic way a body moves or should move, you're just basically blowing all of that out of the water with what you're doing. Like, I don't know why you would want people to be balancing with one leg on a on a ball and making their base unstable. It's not even for specific athletes. Like, it's not even about agility. He's just saying that everyone should train like this, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's just so injury provoking. Like, I can imagine some, poor woman that's just returning to the gym after 12 years or something. She's had her kids, and then she looks at that and goes, oh, that's what you've got to do to get your neurons firing, and then pulls her back or something because she's doing this stupid exercise. So probably stupid exercises is what's triggering me the most right now, and how these people get such a huge following, and I'm just like, how does
Well,
this
I'm just
happen?
gonna spoil it for you. Most of it is from buying a lot of their followers, first of all, and then like they buy like their first like 100,000, and then afterwards it just grows because people see how much they have, and then they just start following. And that's the trick, everyone. Like I've been offered that so many times. Like, yeah, for like $1,000, I can get you like 10,000 followers or whatever like that. And I was like, no, because first of all, half of them unfollow you within like a day anyway, because they're all bots anyway. But it's like, yeah, I would never do that. But that's how a lot of these people get started off with. It's ridiculous.
That's the other thing that's really annoying me at the moment. I'm so tired of these big accounts like following me. I never follow them back because I'm like, you're just a bot. Or they write, oh my god, girl, you're amazing for a week or so on your posts, and then you're like, I just check every day and I'm like, oh yeah, she's still following me. Tomorrow it'll be, then it'll be, she won't be following me anymore, and it's like, why? I don't. And then when
It's
I
for the clout, Rose. It's for the clout. You just gotta. No, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. It's
and I've just
ridiculous.
watched some accounts go from like 1,200 or 5,000 to like 300,000 in a week, and I'm like, that's just not, that can't be organic growth. Like, that can't be. And I'm a bit like you. I just don't buy my followers, so I'm very conservative. I think I've got 13.4K now or something like that, and I've grown that by myself with my genuine interaction. And sometimes people will message me and I'll DM them back and they'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe that you responded, and I'm like how, what, I'm just a
You
bodybuilder.
poor
Like,
child, really. Basically, it's like what went wrong with you in your life? But I saw that you've been doing like live videos too and everything like that. Was that just started during the pandemic that you just wanted to connect with people more?
yeah, I started doing like about 6 o'clock Australian time, like a workout. I don't always save it. Sometimes I don't sort of do it regularly, which is bad. I should, because I'd probably get more followers, but um or more people on the live. But yeah, I started to do that because I was just like, it'll give someone else maybe something to follow along with at home. I normally do it for cardio, so like a really fast, quick 15 minutes of cardio kind of thing. Yeah, and it's just my way of giving back, because that's really all I do on my account. I just give back. I give free information. I don't plug my business or anything like that because I do have a full-time job. So me doing the PT stuff is just it's a love job. It's a something that I do because I love it and I enjoy helping people. But I'm not reliant on it for my income.
And that's great. And I mean, how has your sleep been? Because we talk about sleep a lot on this podcast, but like especially when you're in a lockdown, like there were nights where literally, like you said right now, like I don't even know what day it was. Like it was just everything was just going so weirdly. And has it been just weird for you, just adjusting to or even maintaining a normal sleep schedule, knowing that like literally you could stay up as late as you wanted, and no matter what, really?
Yeah, look, I've been so conscious to try and stick to my routine, and because routine is everything. Like once it goes out the window, I think that my mental health would probably just decline even faster. And so yeah, I've been trying to be really careful about still going to bed, but there've been some nights that I go to bed and I just toss and I turn and I think about things and I get sad, you know, like I think everyone's really sad. Like I want to see my family. I want to see my family that are in different states. Like I have family in Queensland, and there's like literally a border now. You can't go over the border. So, and he and his wife, they don't want to have the vaccine. So I really don't know when I will see them again. I literally don't know. Apart from seeing them on Zoom and things like that. But people are human. We want human connection and human touch and human hugs. And, you know, I see a lot of like I watched this thing by Mark Zuckerberg recently and he was like, oh, it's the new way of the world and we're all gonna like link up over Zoom and la la la. And I'm like, are you human? Like,
He
are
just
you
does that because he is so socially awkward. This is the only time that like he could ever like function in a world because literally trying to have a conversation with him is like trying to talk to a robot.
That's what I'm like. I'm like, you people are like robots, and you think that everyone else wants to live like you, and you celebrate these things that all of us are mourning. Like we're all mourning that we can't be near our friends, hug our friends, you know, give each other a hug and kiss hello. Like that's kind of the way we are in Australia. We hug each other, we shake hands to say hello. These are our customs and our values. And then you've got someone kind of who seems to have a lot of sway and a lot of power going, yay, this is great, this is the way we're going to be forever. It's like we don't even need to connect in person anymore. Isn't that wonderful? And I'm like, no, it's not wonderful.
The first real hug that I did lasted about like 2 minutes after like quarantine. Like we're just gonna enjoy this. Like it's gonna be a while, everyone. So, but yeah, I just can't imagine.
Yeah, you know, I think it's so normal to want that human, and I feel so sad for people who are on their own. Like that's really sad. Like imagine
Guilty.
being, yeah, you know,
It's
it's
whatever.
so sad. It's like, and dating and all those sorts of things. It's like I mean, people in Melbourne, I don't know how they're coping. Like I honestly don't know. It's something like
That's a whole
220.
different podcast in and of itself. How people are coping there, Rose.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm like, wow. Like so, yeah. I feel like um,
Those sex dolls are finally like getting. I mean, those sex robots are finally getting their first due. I think really in Melbourne.
I mean, seriously, like I don't know how people are emotionally coping, but yeah, sleep wise, I try to stick to it. But there are nights that you know you toss and you turn. You know, it's just not. It's not easy. But I do take melatonin is really good, and ashwagandha. I have just ashwagandha for me has been a lifesaver. It's really I really wonder how I'd be coping emotionally if I didn't take that because I first came across ashwagandha about 3 years ago, and I'd had a really terrible time at work, and I was a bit burnt out. And I started taking it, and I, within probably 2 weeks, started to notice my mood. And I had been suffering for a long time before that. So yeah, ashwagandha all the way.
Well, and I want to end this on a positive note. So, in an ideal world, a year from now, where would you like to be at? Where would you like to? And I know it's probably not going to end the way that we hope to, but we're just going to end this positively. Where would you like to be at a year from today when we talk to you again?
Well, I hope that in a year's time there is a remarkable medication, maybe a pill, something like that, that people can take. We can travel, or there's just rapid antigen testing, or maybe Corona's gone completely. But if it's still around, we have easy ways to work it out and test ourselves before we go anywhere, so everyone is safe. And that I can be living my life, competing again, traveling around the world and standing on different stages. That's what I would love.
Well, and now before we wrap things up, I just want to have you say something that's going to make the Americans listening to this madder than they've ever been. How many people have actually died in Australia since this pandemic started?
Oh, let me actually get the right.
Because she told me, and I was like, "What like, why are you in lockdown now, basically? Then, like, it's for any American listening, like, this is gonna make you want to punch out your computer, so just buyer beware. It just won't.
Okay, so we've had this is from the beginning until now. Okay, so the beginning till now, 1,053 deaths from the very beginning um, of the pandemic till now. We have most of those deaths actually occurred in the first wave. There was about 823, and they were mostly in nursing homes. Unfortunately, that was prior to our vaccine. We had no vaccine back then. And there's been 64,000 cases. The end. 64,628 cases, 1,053 deaths, and we are still in lockdown and
In a country of 30 million people, basically. So that just
27 million or 26 million or something like that.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we have 600,000 deaths over in the U.S., and I mean, we don't even break a sweat, really. So it's good God, and I mean, that's just everyone. When you're going out and doing your daily activities today, listen to this podcast whenever it comes out. Just think about Rose and think about how we're doing the stuff that she can't do, and it's I just wish you guys so much of the best and I mean I don't was there ever a reason, just before we wrap things up, was there ever a reason that Australia gave why they don't have any pro shows in Australia? Because that seems ridiculous. Like just how many competitors they have that they wouldn't at least have one pro show there.
Oh, I tell a lie. So the promoter of the Arnold Classic, he did make an allowance. So there's normally 2 pro shows a year. The last 2 years, the Arnold Classic has been cancelled. There's 1 pro show a year, I should say, the Arnold Classic. It was cancelled the last 2 years because we couldn't get the athletes over from America. And in the heavyweight division, the big boy division, I don't know if there would be enough to have their own standalone show. But then the promoter of the Arnold Classic did arrange for the physique and the bikini girls. They were able to do a pro show, and it was part of the nationals. And they were going to do that again this year, I think. But we've got quite a lot of figure girls, but I think the sanction fees are quite high. So when you're not sure of how many people you can get to come to a show, and then you've got huge sanction fees for each and every division, I think that puts the promoters in a really tough spot. So I can't say I blame the promoter. That's why I'm a bit disappointed. I was hoping maybe the league itself might be able to make some so that we could still compete. Maybe they could make some reductions or in the sanction fees, or make some allowances or something, so that it would be viable for our promoters to actually run a show. But to be honest, I don't know if that's even fair to say, because I don't know the inner workings and politics of the league. But for me, if I could make an appeal, it would be, let us compete. If it's a cost thing, then can we look at reducing the cost for New Zealand and Australian athletes, so that we can at least get on stage? Because I know that there are at least 14 girls in my division that would get on stage tomorrow, that would get ready and get on stage tomorrow if we had a chance. But right now, with the lockdowns the way they are, I can't see any further shows this year. It won't be happening anywhere, because Melbourne's in complete lockdown. So none of the states, and all the states have their borders shut. So no one can get from state to state. So wherever that's happening, there's definitely no chance.
Well, just to end this positively too, I'm going to tell Rose what I'm going to do as soon as I hang up from you. I'm going to go drive to a gas station without a mask. There's a sign out there in the front of the gas station that says mask recommended, and I'll just flip off the sign when I walk in, and I'm going to go get myself a Powerade, and I'm going to enjoy it. But again, Rose, thank you so much for coming on and for talking with us. I mean, really, because like you said, for as much has been going on in Australia, like I had no idea about it until I had my last Australian guest on. I didn't even know that there was even a lockdown. So I think that really needs to be out there more. Like the people are actually, I mean, for as bad as people think that stuff is here, it's like at least we aren't still in a lockdown. So, but I
And girls that are competing still, you are so lucky. Like, honestly, get on that stage, girls, rock it. I'm so happy for you that you can. I'm so glad you get the opportunity to, because believe me, it's really hard when you don't have that option. You've got, you don't have it. So, but I love watching you all, and I love I love the fact that it's still happening, and I can't wait until the Olympia is on, and I'm just like, oh my god, it's still happening somewhere in the world, so I'm happy.
do you have any favorites that you're thinking about for the Olympia, or anyone that you think is gonna gonna
Oh,
win?
I love Jessica Reyes Padilla for my category. I love her look. I just think she's tall and she's statuesque and she's, heavily muscled, but she's just feminine, and yeah, I really like her look. What's her name? Natalia. Oh, she's got a
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, she's
She's
really
super
good.
young too. Yeah, yeah.
She's super young. She's really good as well. Um, I'd love to see Kai Green come back and do it. I would really love that in the boys. I love Bumstead. I think he looks amazing. And his sister, she's getting ready, I think, for the Olympia as well. So she's got a great physique as well. So um, yeah, it's good times. There's a lot of really amazing looking athletes.
Yeah. And I mean, I cannot wait until they finally let the Aussies back into to compete
Me
as well. But
too.
is there any last thing that you'd like to say before we wrap things up?
No, just be kind to each other. Hope that everyone's, and be really. I think we just need to be really grateful that if you're not in lockdown, like, do spare a thought for us, but enjoy life. That's all I would ask anyone to do, because I know here it's really hard to even see your family. So, yeah, like, just be really appreciative if you've got those freedoms, and yeah, that's probably all really.
Well, absolutely. And again, we could not, like Rose, even when I messaged her, she's like, I don't really have that much fitness stuff. And I was like, no, you have a story that's even more important than the fitness stuff to really, spread that. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on and chatting. And I look forward to having you on a year from now. And good God. And, yes, send me those Tin Tams if you want. And, I'll video this time myself eating them and just be like, oh my God, this is, because they are, for anyone out there, I mean, you could probably get them on Amazon. Like, they are ridiculously good. Like, I thought when she sent them to me, I thought it would be like, oh, they'll just be all right. And I took that first bite and I was like, oh my sweet Jesus. Like, it was really good. But again, Rose, thank you so much. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate that you love, giving light to us bigger girls, and interviewing us. It's amazing, and I'm so happy that there's someone out there that's doing a podcast that just for us. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the thing is, so a little sad, like this started off like literally as like I just wanted to have a bodybuilder on just because I was into fitness. I had no idea that it was ever going to take off and do it and be it what it was. So I like to call it a happy accident, really, that it really had, because I had my bands on before this, but I'm glad that it happened. And again, you guys, like before, give Rose a follow on her Instagram. I'll leave the link down below. And again, thank you so much. And everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.